Hi, I'm Adam, a drum tutor at Birmingham Rock School, and for today's Tuesday we're going to be going over some of the basic terms that we use for simple drum patterns that we then build upon to create more complex patterns, more fun stuff to play. So a lot of the time when we're building up these drum patterns, we tend to start from what we call the basic rock beat, or the basic drum beat, or you might have heard terms like 4 to the floor, basic 4/4 rhythm. And we're going to go over what exactly that means and how you can build upon it to create more interesting drum patterns. So the first one that we're going to go for is a simple 2-beat repeating loop that just goes like this. And we can count that as kick drum being 1 and snare drum being 2. So 1, 2, 1, 2. But then when we repeat it for the first time, we're going to count it as 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And to finish that off, what we're going to do is put a hi-hat on top of every single one of these beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you end up with this. And we can speed that up and slow that down for different kind of feelings, obviously different tempos. So you can end up with something like this. For something quite slow, or we can speed it all the way up. For more of a kind of punky kind of feel. As with most drum patterns, there is more than one way of constructing it or learning it. So just then we started with the kick drum and snare drum and then added the hi-hat on top. But you can also go through one beat at a time. So the other way to build up this drum pattern is to play the hi-hat and kick drum together, followed by the hi-hat and snare drum together. And count that as one movement, and then a second movement. And we'll count that as our 1, 2, and then 3, 4. So you got. And you can experiment with that, move it into different parts of the kit. So I'm going to move my right hand over to the ride cymbal and see what happens. Or onto the crash cymbal, so you get a very kind of loud, powerful beat. Or just a floor tom. But anyway, that's the first version of what we tend to call the basic rock pattern or the basic drum beat that we build upon. So let's go over the second one. It's very similar. Now we're going to start with that same alternating pattern between the kick drum and the snare drum. So you have that boom, clap, boom, clap. Now those are the same building blocks that we started with for the previous drum pattern, but the difference is going to come when we put the hi-hat over the top of it. And what we're going to do is, as well as putting the hi-hat on every beat, we're also going to put the hi-hat on every off beat. Now the off beats are the spaces in between the beats. So if the beats are 1, 2, 3, 4, then the off beats are going to be like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So the way we're going to count this is 1 and then the second half of the bar is exactly the same. 3 and. So if we put all that together and speed it up a little bit, we get something like this. So that is a drum pattern that is used loads. You've probably heard it all over the place. I sometimes call it the AC/DC beat or the Billie Jean beat. And once you've got used to that one, practiced it, got it nice and tight, you can then add in extra kick drums, extra snare drums, extra hi-hats, grace notes here and there, drum fills, crash cymbals. That's why we kind of call it the basic rock pattern or the basic drum beat that we then build upon. So I'm just going to show you how we start with one of those patterns and then add in extra things and make it more interesting. So that was our tutor tip about the basic rock beat or the basic drum pattern, and hopefully that explains what we mean by those terms, and hopefully you can go away and practice them, build on them, experiment with them, have fun with it, and we will see you soon.